Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Get Out of Rat. Today, I'm joined by Lee Houghton, business improvement coach for Get Knowledge. And just before we hit record, we were talking about how we feel like we know each other. We've shared presenting on a webinar. You went before me, and so I listened with a real interest in what you had to say. And we've talked about coming on the podcast, but we see each other, and it's just the power of our industry and social media podcasts that we do. We've just got straight into chatting. So Lee, thanks very much for joining and welcome.
Oh, thanks very much, Martin. Honestly, I'm really, really looking forward to this opportunity to chat with you. And it's like we're separated from birth as well, isn't it? There's an uncanny likeness.
Yeah, we're two bald men. I feel like I'm kind of like the more chunkier version of you. Bit more of a beard. But yeah, when did the hair go for you, actually? I always ask this of other men.
So that's a really good question. This is probably the toughest question you'll ask this afternoon, actually. So when I was about 25, 26, I was DJing at the time, and I used to have patterns in the side of my hair. And I had them up until about late 20s. But when the receding hairline was bigger than the pattern in the side of my head, I thought it was time to just shave off the whole of the hair. So mid to late 20s was that conscious choice to just get rid of it. And I don't think. Well, I do miss it sometimes, if I'm honest. But I don't miss it at the minute, because you see everybody else praying for the hairdressers.
Yeah.
And that's one queue that I won't be in because I get to do my own.
That's a really good point. It's funny, my son, he's 19 now, but he's got a big head of hair, curly hair. And I remember telling him, when I was 18, 19, I said, I'll show you some pictures. I had big curly black hair. And he kind of, his color drained from his face. And I said, the difference being is I've always had like the kind of the vampire hairline.
Yeah.
His is straight across, and he was like an audible sigh of relief when he was like, "Oh, I'm not going to go the same way as you," because I was about the same sort of age. Just went for it then, and never looked back.
Yeah, love it.
So I'll move. Nice segue, no segue at all from hairstyles to. So now you're a business improvement coach at Get Knowledge, and I want to talk about that, but. As I always do, people are always interested in your journey from when did it start to now?
Yeah. Okay. So I believe that I have probably had the most random journey to get to where I have. So as we've just touched on, then I used to DJ, and I DJ'd for from the age of 18 to when I was 32, something like that. And for 18 months of that, I dressed as a monkey in Yates's in Bolton every Friday night.
You're going to win this one.
Yeah, I had a bouncy castle business with 7 bouncy castles, 2 slides, a gladiator duel, bouncy boxing, and 4 pairs of sumo suits, 2 of which were child's. And these were all sidelines, because my dad DJ'd when I was growing up, and he actually retired DJing after I retired DJing. So
wow.
And. Yeah, I know. But I looked at him, and like coming in at 2:00 in the morning on a Saturday night, Sunday morning, I thought, I don't really want that. I don't really want that. And I was at the point of time where I was running like a parallel career. So I was like a DJ by night and an improvement person by day. And I had a decision that I had to make about which one was I going to commit to, because I couldn't do them both, because I was like DJing 4 or 5 nights a week, and I had a full-time job as well. So I chose, rightly or wrongly, the more professional improvement avenue. And so, but the things that I've learned through the DJing and through the bouncy castles and things, I take with me now everywhere I go, because that was my first proper introduction to the importance of customers and the importance of understanding it. So when you DJ at night, you have like between 7 and 9 at night. I mean, nobody goes out at that time now, but when I was DJing, it shows how long ago this was. People used to go out at a reasonable hour, Martin.
And none of this midnight.
No, this nonsense. No. We were going home then. So like people would and you'd play like music between like 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock to ease people in as there were conversations that were starting about what they'd done. Then between 10 and midnight, you'd ramp it up and play the really popular ones, and you might play the same song like a number of times in a really short period of time, and then you'd play like the anthems, and then you'd slow it right down near the end, and that for me was my first interaction about understanding that customers are different, their needs are different, and that was just in a night. But in businesses now, it depends on the cycle, it depends on the month, and it depends what they do. So and also how you can talk to customers as well. And
yeah,
I mean, the number of times that people thought that they were the only person in the room because my eye contact, I was like, I must have looked, if somebody was just staring at me, my eyes would have been going all over the place, but I was trying to make eye contact with everybody in the room to make them feel a little bit more special. And it worked because, in fact, actually, I hope my wife doesn't listen to this, because she believes that when she came into the pub, that where I met her, that I played the songs that she wanted, and I remembered them every single week, and I would just look at her all night. But that wasn't the case. But that was the illusion that I gave. In fact, actually, I'm not going to tell her about this podcast episode, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I can edit this bit as well if you want.
yeah. But I think I
can edit it to say that you were looking.
Yes, yeah. So it's all of these lessons that I've then taken with me into business improvement and stuff. And yeah, so like you said, Get Knowledge was formed about 2.5-3 years ago. And through that, before that, I was an internal improvement person in different sectors, starting in the public service and then telecommunications, logistics, and now a consultant or a business improvement coach, working for myself and business partner Jason in Get Knowledge. And I've always wanted to have my own business, but I've never had the balls to to go out and do it. And in fact, actually, about 2.5 to 3 years ago, do you have a friend, Martin, that no matter, you might not see him for a week or a day, a week, a month, or like a period of time, that when you get back together, it's like you've never been apart?
I think people have got rhythms and energy that you could spend 20 years apart. Strangely enough, I was just mentioning to Bev, my fiance, out of the blue, I got contacted by a few guys I went to uni with, and we're having a Zoom on Saturday, and I know it's not going to be awkward because you connect with people, right? So yeah, I've got a couple of friends that I can think of that there is no need to say things like, sorry, I haven't been in touch, or you just go straight into messing about, or just straight into a conversation like you've been having for 20 or 30 years. So yes, I do.
Yeah, amazing. So I do as well. A guy called Chris, and when I fell into improvement, I got my first improvement job. I went into the pub to celebrate with him, because we met every Wednesday night, a group of us in a pub, and I went in to celebrate, or I thought to celebrate, and I told everybody my news. And Chris, he looked at me and he went, "Oh, one of them, are you?" I was like, "What do you mean, one of them?" And he went, "One of them who go into where people work on different teams and tell them how to do their job better. If you come into where I work and tell me how to do my job better, I would tell you to go away," or words to that effect. Yeah. And that was like 16 years ago when he said that. And if my best mate wouldn't trust me to help him improve what he does, then what chances have I got of random strangers? And it's only reflecting over the last couple of years where I've actually realised the importance of that message. And what I've been trying to do over the last 15, 16 years is try to crack that code, really, and the secret of influencing change and improvement. But anyway, so Chris, 2.5 years ago, I was working on a client site. I was an employed consultant working on a client site in London. I got a phone call, and I was advised that I needed to come home. So I got on the train at London Euston, headed to Preston, got in a taxi and went to St Catherine's Hospice where Chris was, and he'd been there for the last couple of weeks. So St Catherine's Hospice provides end-of-life care just to make you comfortable. I walked into the room and Chris was lying there, and he was paler and frailer than he was a few days previous when I last saw him. His sister was in the room, his ex-partner was in the room, one of our other friends was in the room, and I said, because they'd looked after him over the last few days, that I would do the night shift that night.
What was wrong with him? What had happened?
So this was his third bout of cancer, age 39.
Really?
He had 2 bouts of lymphoma, then all his lymph nodes removed, and then melanoma was the one that was that put him there. And I sent everybody away, and I set up camp on the couch for the evening, so I could stare at him and look at him and dab his lips and stuff like that. And at 10 to 8 in the morning, because my breakfast was due at 8 o'clock, I got up, I went into the bathroom, I went, right, Chris, I'll be back in a second. I'm just going to go and have a wash and freshen up. So I brushed my teeth, I had a wash, and then I left the bathroom. I looked over at him, and when I looked over at him, his chest expanded, and that was it. It just his chest froze. It didn't move again, and so he'd chosen that moment to go. And what is really spooky about that, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but when he was told that there was nothing else that the doctors could do, no more medication, and they were just about keeping him comfortable, I was the first person to see him after the consultant had given him this news, and we got talking about death as you do, and in the moments, and there was a nurse in the room, and he said to me, says, "Do you think I'll know when the time comes? Do you think I'll know?" Because we all believe that his mum chose a particular moment when her son, when Chris's brother was with her, and he looked over at me and he went, "I'll let you know, Lee. I'll let you know." And I was like, bloody hell! So that was the first night I spent in the hospice with him, and then his chest expanded at the moment when I'd left the bathroom. Anyway, so I made a few phone calls and told everybody that the time had come, and I went and sat outside the hospice. The sun was beating down. It was 5th of July, and I was sat there and I was thinking, you're a fraud, Lee. You're a fraud. You tell your kids every single morning that they can be whatever they want to be when they grow up, but you're not being what you want to be. You've always wanted to be a consultant, and you've always wanted your own business, and you've always wanted and all of these things. And I then thought about the 3 lessons that Chris left me with, because when Chris was terminal, he offered to give me a few £1,000 to set me up in business, because he was going to extract his pension and set up a trust fund for his 2 boys. And I said I didn't want his money. I said what I'd love from him is 3 lessons through his eyes that he believed were the most important that I could share with his boys, because his perspective on life changed. And the reason I knew his perspective changed is, do you remember the Champions League final, the Gareth Bale Champions League final?
Yeah.
So me and Chris both support Liverpool, and him and his 2 boys were coming around to my house to watch that game. And on the way round to my house, there's a roundabout at the end of the road, and he was turning left to come towards the house, and a car pulled out on him. And ordinarily, Chris would have been one of those people that flew up behind them, would follow them home, flick the V's out the window, get really angry. But in this instance, he didn't. And as soon as he walked through my front door, he said, "You'll never guess what happened." And he told me this story. And I said, "What did you do?" And he went, "Nothing." I said, "What do you mean, nothing?" He went, "Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? We have a game to watch, and I'd rather spend time with yourselves than chase somebody down the street that I don't even know, getting angry about something that's just happened that they might probably never even realise that they did." And I was like, right, okay, wow, there's a shift in his perspective here. So when we knew that his time was coming, I said to him, I love 3 lessons from you. And he was like, "I wish you'd just asked for the money, Lee. That would have been far easier for me to give you. I've got to think about this now." So anyway, over a couple of weeks and months, and I'm so grateful that he actually did think about these things as well. And I went to see him, and he went, "Right, Lee, I've got the first lesson for you." He said, when him and an ex-partner were splitting up, he said he tried to be somebody he thought that she wanted him to be. He said it didn't make me happy, it didn't make her happy, and we still ended up splitting up. So he said, no matter what, just always be yourself. Always be yourself is the first lesson. And then a couple of weeks after that, I went back to see him, and he went, "Lee, you always visit me when you're not working and stuff." And one of our other mates, Nash, rings him at 12 o'clock every single day when he's on his lunch break and stuff. And me and Chris, we grew up on the same road together, but we went to separate schools, and we could have chosen different paths with different friends at different times, but we didn't. And he said if we'd have chosen different friends, then they might not be in here now. They might not have rung me at 12 o'clock, like Nash rings us at 12 o'clock every day. So he says, make good friends because you never know when you're going to need them. So that was the second one. And then a couple of weeks before he passed, we broke him out of the, we didn't really break him. The hospice knew he was going, but I like to say we broke him out. It sounds far grander. So we broke him out of the hospice to go to watch the Foo Fighters in concert. 8 of us went to the Foo Fighters at the Etihad Stadium in Manchester. He bought these tickets before he was really ill. Anyway, so there was 2 cars that went, Chris and his ex-partner and his 2 boys, 14 and 16 at the time, and then another car of us. And on the way home from that gig, his youngest, after dropping Chris off, said, is it too late for us to go to Anfield for a tour? So I got a phone call about midnight to ask me, was it too late? And I said, well, ideally, we would have had this conversation a couple of months ago, but I'll see what we can do. So that was on the Thursday. On the Sunday, we went to Liverpool. And they were amazing. We had ice creams outside, discount in the shop, free drinks as we went round, as much time as we wanted in the changing rooms and a private tour. It was brilliant, absolutely fantastic day. Photographs all the way through. And in the car on the way home, my little boy was 4 sat behind me, and Chris's 2 boys, 14 and 16, sat behind him. And he looked at me and he went, "How many times could we have done this?" And I said, "Yeah, loads." He says, "Well, why did we wait till I was a burden and I had to be wheeled around in a wheelchair and I couldn't get up and sit on those old stadium seats like you all could and stuff?" And he said, "Third lesson's time's limited. Act now because time's limited. You just don't know." And it was with those 3 lessons that I was sat on the bench outside St. Catherine's Hospice, reflecting on my life and thinking I'm a fraud, going, I need to do things different. So that's when I've started my own podcast. I've started my own business with Jason, but much more than that, I've spent the last 2.5 to 3 years really understanding what those lessons mean to me, because Chris had his reasons for those lessons. And I always used to think that I'm not bad at this change stuff. But now I think we're armed with these 3 lessons. I think that these are the foundation for everything I do now. And what I mean by that is it's taken me 2.5 years to realise that always being myself is that voice in your head, really understanding what that voice in your head is saying to you. Is it helping you? Is it crippling you? Your thoughts drive your behaviours, and really trying to get to grips with that. And being authentically yourself as well, actually. So I've got a tattoo here, and this is rubbish for audio listeners, by the way, but I've got a tattoo, and about 2 inches down my wrist is where it starts, because 9 years ago, when I got that tattoo, I was conscious about what people would think of the guy with a tattoo going in to do what he was doing. And I thought having it there would be underneath my shirt, underneath my jumper, and people wouldn't be able to see it. So I wouldn't. They'd just take me without not being a tattooed person. Really, I should get that filled in, but it's a metaphor now for how far I've come myself, because I don't care now, because I'm just being authentically me as often as I possibly can. So that's what always being yourself is. Making good friends is about, whether that's friends, connections, clients, customers, colleagues, peers, anybody. It's just making stronger relationships, because you never know when you're going to do that. And it's like the amazing, one of the things, Martin, that I really like about what you're doing and what you stand for is your social media posts. They're always coming from a place of value. You're helping people who are seeking jobs. You're standing up for things that are completely right to stand up for. So you're authentically being yourself, but then also you're helping other people. You're coming from a place of value, and I think that is what making good friends and what Chris means. So when he said he was lying in bed and he was like, make good friends because you never know when you're going to need them. That can be any form of connection. Make good friends with anybody, or relationships, because you never know when you're going to need it or when they might need you. And then the third one, time being limited. My biggest frustration is those people that say that they want to get better on Monday, or at the start of next month, or at the beginning of next year. And if your reason to get better is big enough, then you'll bloody start now. Your reason to get better is not big enough, or you're happier not getting better, that's the reason that you won't. So time's limited. So if there is something you want to do, then do it. So in the last 2.5 years, I've skydived from 15,000 feet after being too frightened to climb a wall at back of my mum and dad's house as I was growing up. I've started the podcast, started the business. I record social media videos from the bath. All of these things just because of those 3 lessons, really. And I'm just trying to be authentically me. And I've realised as well, and I will pause for a breath and let you speak in a second.
No, this is great.
That I've realised that I'm not for everybody either, and I'm completely comfortable with that. I've spent far too long trying to please everybody, but it's all right that people don't like you or don't get on with you, because everybody is different, aren't they? And I think if you're just always yourself, make good friends, you'll attract who like you and stuff like that. So then you're going to make better, stronger connections, which is so important. And then if you want to do something, just bloody do it. And that's the foundation for change. It's the foundation for improvement. It's the foundation for speaking to customers. It's the foundation for business. It's the foundation for everything. I think those 3 things. But the important thing in them all is that everybody understands what them 3 things mean to them individually. Because Chris had his reasons of why those were the 3 things. I spent 2.5 years trying to join all my worlds together to kind of go, how can I authentically be me, join my passion and my purpose and all of those stuff, and who do I want to make better friends with and connections and all of that, and then what do I actually want to do and start now. So yeah, there you go. That was a bit of an introduction, wasn't it, Martin?
Do you know what? I feel deeply honoured it's a privilege to hear that. It's so powerful, such a powerful kind of recollection. Thanks very much for sharing it. I've been writing down some of the things you've been saying. As a fellow inked person,
Yes.
Same sort of thing. Actually, again, it's really powerful you saying that I've stopped or chosen different tattoos based on the role that I thought I was playing at the time. And you're right. Actually, there's so much that resonates with your story. If anything, one of the things is I don't begrudge Spurs losing the Champions League final to you guys a couple of years ago now, knowing that it made you and your family and Chris and wherever he is, his family happy. I don't really mind anymore. I just, it's really powerful what you said. Really powerful. It was giving me goosebumps when you were talking about it, because I just feel like for different reasons, I feel like it took some real powerful, at the time, really negative things to kind of liberate me from, or let's say, liberate. I always feel like I gained freedom from adversity, and there's nothing worse than losing someone you care about. And for you to share that and then turn it into a positive, wouldn't it be great? One of the things that I really felt when you were talking, and it's something that I try and bring to bear now in my life as well. Wouldn't it be great if we could we could help people get to this point of self-awareness and being authentic without it requiring a big life event, whether that is losing your job or divorce or illness or any of the grief, for people to kind of feel like they can embrace who they are, do what they want. I'm naturally an optimist. I'm really hopeful of the next generation. You think about the kids here; they've been amazing going through a world event like the pandemic, and they're brilliant. So I've got great faith in future generations. But wouldn't it be great if? And I guess you're perfectly in the right place for kind of improvement coach, because I'm rambling a bit now because you've really inspired me around. It seems to me that you understand that we're all inhabiting the earth at the same time, and that is amazing.
Yeah.
Yet, and maybe the pandemic will help us with this, yet we leave some of ourselves at home, go to work, we play a role, we think it's all process, and those, of course, have their place. But this is about connecting with people on a human level. Right. This is about understanding who you're working with, what they want, how they can be better. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, so
it's absolutely brilliant.
Just on a couple of points that you said there, Martin, as well. Actually, my biggest regret in life is having to lose Chris to have the kick up the arse to really understand what these 3 lessons are to me. So it's a bittersweet thing because I've lost him, and to really understand myself. And I'm tattooed. I've got tattoos of Chris now as well. So I've got like a little ginger kid walking up some steps at 10 to 8 in the morning. I've got 3 lessons tattooed here. And before he passed as well, he wanted to get me a gift, and he got me the ring that's on my right hand, that with the 3 lessons engraved on the inside of that as well. So, but what I think is really important is that I am completely driven now to share Chris's story and lessons with as many people as possible, because I believe at 39 he was taken far too soon. He didn't think he was special in any way. He's a process engineer at Leyland Motors, but I think what he's left behind has been life-changing for me. And I hope that other people can understand what these 3 things are, because they're really simple to say. Always be yourself, make good friends, and time's limited, but they're not easy to live by. And I used to tell people that the reason I tell the story, and the reason why I share the story, is because I want people to learn from Chris. But I've got a selfish reason to tell the story as well, is because I don't want to grieve like I did 2.5 years ago. So I feel like he's with me now. Having this opportunity to chat with you, Martin, it allows Chris to sit next to me. And I know as soon as we hang the call up here, I'll go and have a look at his picture that's up on my wall in the hallway, and we'll have a little chat about some of the other stories that he's shared on the lessons. And at the time, they were insignificant. Or I believe they were insignificant, but they're etched in my memory, and there's a lesson in everything. I lost me. In fact, actually, just to continue this positive theme, I lost my nan the same year, and my nan in the January of the same year. And I used to go for chippy tea with my nan every single Friday, right? Ever since my granddad passed, I took chips to my nan every Friday. And Friday was my night with my nan, and the whole family stayed away, and that was my time with my nan. On the odd occasion that my mum would turn up, my auntie would turn up, or my cousin would turn up, they'd walk in and they'd go, "Oh, Alice, you've not taken your tablets," or "Alice, why are these pots still next to the sink and stuff?" And she'd be there eating a small chips and gravy or a small fish, and she'd look up at me, and she'd say, "In one ear, Lee, out the other," and then just carry on chatting and ask me a question. That I think is. She was consciously choosing to ignore what she perceived as negativity or negative or going to detract from that experience that she was having eating chips and gravy with me that day. And I think it's all a conscious choice. Sometimes it's really difficult. You might watch the news and there's a horrific event. You might get told a story or see something on social media that should never happen. But it's a conscious choice about how we allow that to influence us. Those things have happened and those things have been said. But it's our reaction that will determine that outcome. And I think what my nan taught me then, and when she said it, I didn't think anything of it. But it's only on reflecting back now, and when I combine Chris's story, when I think about my nan, and when I think about business improvement and people and human and stuff, and thinking actually in one ear, out the other. She never meant it like that, but I've interpreted it in that way, and I think there's so much we can learn from the paths that we've tread. We're getting quite deep, aren't we? Really now, it's
we are, but it's kind of like what you're tuned into a different way of thinking, and your senses are kind of telling you things, and that they weren't before. That you, like you say, you might have just passed over. I can remember takeaway lessons from. I travelled a lot. I worked ridiculous hours, and always thought, I'm a great dad. Being a dad actually is and still is the thing I'm most proud of. That should be the first thing we put on LinkedIn. Yeah. But it was only after going through a divorce, and it wasn't a difficult divorce. It was amicable, but the lesson I took away from that, if we're talking about things like this that have had an impact, was just say yes. So anything that the kids ever said, and don't get me wrong, this wasn't just about ridiculous stuff. It was more about being present and time. So if they wanted, at any point, they wanted my time, I just had in my mind that my default setting is now yes. So I've got a project to do, but one of the kids comes in and wants to know if we're going to do, can we do something? Can we kick a ball? Or they're bored, or they're kind of asking for, they're not asking for things, they're just asking for your presence, right?
Yeah.
I think back at, it didn't happen often, but I do think back and I can think of times when I'd go, yeah, I just need to finish this bit of work and then I'll do it. The moment's gone, and invariably you might not, they might have moved on, or you don't get to see them at that time. Now, and again, I hope the pandemic's helping us all with this. Now I just say yes.
Yeah.
Now I say yes. And my team know I can be on a Zoom, someone comes in, or one of the kids, if they're not with me, phone me. I'll just take it. I'll take the call. And just that kind of, that's always stuck with me now, is things that maybe I thought, you know what, I don't really want to go on a bike ride. What overrides that is just saying yes, create a memory, have an experience. And actually, it's kind of like the best nights you had when we were young, free and single, were the ones that were unplanned, or maybe you didn't even want to go.
Yeah.
So this kind of argument I have in my head sometimes now, saying yes always wins, and it has done for like the last, I'd say, 10 years. But again, wouldn't it have been great if we had those kind of discussions when we were young, even at school, around what it is to be a human, and mindfulness and being present, and that human relationships and the relationships you have with people are time framed. So maximize them, well, what does that mean? I think that would be, and maybe we'll get there. It feels like the school syllabus and things like that get more progressive every year. But I'd love to see that. We are going all over the place. This is great.
Yeah, no,
this is my happy place.
Yeah, we are going all over the place. And I'm going to take us on another slight tangent in a second as well, because you've just sparked another thought in my mind. And I think, so Chris's lessons, always be self, make good friends and time's limited. We can look at on a micro and a macro level. So if you just think about somebody who picks up the phone in the contact center, if they are constrained and they can't be themselves, if they can't get to know the needs of the customer and to make a stronger relationship, and then they can't, or not empowered to act now, then that detracts from the customer service or customer experience that they're gonna have. So, and I think that this is why it comes back to what do those three things mean to individuals, to teams, to business, and these are the foundation for what I do in Get Knowledge now. So I've got a Creating Confident People Leaders course, and the Creating Confident Change Leaders group coaching program, which is 5 modules, which is change starts with you first, which is then understanding yourself is second, storytelling and creating allies is third, influencing others is fourth, and then acting out times limited is 5. But the foundation for those 5 things are always be yourself, make good friends, and times limited, because I think they're so powerful. And it comes down to exactly what you're saying about this human element and connection. I went on and it doesn't come across, but I went on a stand-up comedy course last year. And funny enough, actually, that was the beginner course last year. And I'm going on the intermediate course this coming weekend and the following weekend. Yeah, I am. Yeah. So, but my first lesson when I went onto it, the course, so he went, "What's the most?" There was like 7 of us on the course. And he went, "What's the most important thing in stand-up comedy?" And I think 3 of us said jokes. And he went, "No, that's the material. That's the third most important thing in stand-up comedy." And so then we thought about it. And he went, "If jokes is third, what else could it be?" And he said, "The first most important thing is connection with your audience. The second is your performance. And then the third is material." And if I just elaborate on this a little bit, if you think about the children's nativity play at schools, they are arguably the worst singing. They forget all of the words, dodgy outfits, but at the end of it, they will get a standing ovation, tears in people's eyes, and such proud and amazing feedback. Okay, because the level of connection that those people those little people on the stage have got with those people in the audience is second to none. Which is why you get that. If you think about a stand-up comedy now, so if you go to a comedy club, you're gonna sit down in when you're allowed to. You're going to sit down in the theatre, and you're going to be going, "Am I going to have a good night tonight? I don't know about any of these comedians." But if you've paid to go to watch Michael McIntyre, if you love Michael or Jimmy, whoever it is, you're going to sit down. You're going to go, "Oh, I'm going to have a fantastic night now," because you've got a connection with that person. That's there. And I think we need to start with this connection. So business improvement is all about creating an environment of high trust where people feel empowered. I'll say the word empowered, where people feel safe to be able to raise their hand and go, "I've got a problem, I've got an issue, I've got a challenge, this isn't working." And that's the secret of all of this thing, is this level of connection. Chris's first 2 lessons always been yourself and making good friends. Just connecting. The more better connected we can be, the easier all of this can be. But we don't make it easy for ourselves.
No, and I think back to some of my earlier incarnations as a team leader or contact center manager, seeing what rigid adherence to scripts did. It was kind of like, right, you've got this great personality, you're an amazing person, you're really vivacious or whatever. I'm going to suppress that, and I'm going to squash it into this script, rather than taking a bit of a view of, hopefully, where we see a lot of companies now is more, look, you've got to get these 3 points across, okay, for the customer's interest. However, you can be yourself, because I think, as well as the impact on the customer, what I saw was a full day shift, if you're having to suppress who you are, has such a negative impact on people. It exhausted them, but it also took away something from them. If anything, it just made us at the time as a leadership group try and go over the top, to positive reinforcement, support, recognizing that not only is it difficult anyway to take a day's worth of calls, but if you're doing it following a script that removes any impact or any opportunity for connection, we'd be you try and find ways to find a connection, be interested where they live, what they do, connect that way. But of course, then you would have somebody saying, maybe this was way back, but somebody saying, AHT's gone up. Why is that? We've got to be careful, blah, 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 blah. And these kind of competing forces, now, hopefully, with the people understanding the importance of the human element and connections. And then we're all, we like to put people in blocks, don't we? You're a customer, you're an employee. Well, we're actually exactly the same. We've just got to find a way of doing it. It's just really, really powerful. When did you say your stand-up? Is the aim that you're going to do a stand-up routine?
So at the end of each course, so I had you have a 5 minute, or you have a graduation gig, and you have a 5 minute slot, and that was at the end of the beginning one. At the intermediate one, there's a graduation gig in 2 Mondays time, where I get a 10-minute slot. So I get my own little sets. But ultimately, the reason why I wanted to do it at the start is because I believe stand-up comics can deliver a message so succinctly and get a reaction. I wanted to learn that. It wasn't necessarily about jokes and trying to be funny. I wanted to understand the art of that first. But the more I've actually thought about it, and like, I like to do things a little bit different. I like to think of myself as a little bit funny at times. So I would love to incorporate more humour into what I do and how I do it, because I think that is another way to build connection with people. If you can, so I'd love to have, in fact, I'd love to do like a hybrid kind of stand-up comedy act with a serious present. In fact, actually, I'll tell you, I was talking to somebody on Thursday this week, and we had a very similar conversation. And I said, I would love to have a keynote presentation that makes people laugh and cry in the same one, because I think it was or what she called Maya Angelou said that people forget what you said, people forget what you did, but people never forget how you made them feel. And I think the difference between good and great in anything is our ability to make people feel something. And if you can evoke emotion, I think that's a superpower, and people will remember that. So if I was to ask you what's your oldest childhood memory, Martin, you might be able to go back to like a really young age, and you might be able to articulate the colour of a carpet, the smell that's in the air, the taste of food that it might have been, or whatever, because our brain remembers things in pictures, but attached to emotions. That allows us to recall stuff. It doesn't recall things in words. But if I was to ask you, what did you have for your lunch 3 weeks ago on Tuesday, you might not be able to remember it.
Yeah.
And I think if I want, so I'm driven by sharing Chris's message to as many people as possibly can. But to do it successfully, I've got to make people feel something, and I want his memory to outlive, or his message and to outlive me. And I think the only way to do that is to create a strong enough emotion in people. So that's kind of the bigger dream, what I'm working towards. But yeah, that's the reason why, because I don't just want it to be tears. I want it to be like fun as well, and just try to find that balance and make everybody feel something, because everybody's different as well, aren't they? I'm conscious that I'm a jazz hands kind of monkey character type of person, but so I'm not for everybody. But I want to try to create an emotion in everybody that gets them to understand that always being themselves, making good friends, and time's limited can work for them as well.
I think that's really important. And we were sharing before we started recording how people have contacted me and the guests that have come on, hopefully, because in a small way we're breaking down this. And I can remember this. I can distinctly remember looking at a leadership team in a contact center I worked at, and I remember thinking, I'm nothing like them. I look different. I've got a different background. I operate differently. I'm never going to be there unless I go through some weird Mr. Ben metamorphosis, So, but actually, it's only through age, experience, and being in the fight that you realise that was if there was a time machine, I just would have gone back and slapped me around the face and say you're wasting time worrying about something that isn't actually real, because you just do you. Become good at what you do, become competent, and then it will happen. And you can bring a totally different perspective. And actually, the suited guys that you were looking at, I bet you within that group, some of them were mental, quirky, whatever. But you built this perception. And I think that's something that you make such a good point throughout this. Talking of emotions, what I can feel is I want to talk to you more. I want to do something. Do work, some sort of work collaboration in the future. I don't know what it is. I'm just kind of like going, I know that would be good. And I think that is the kind of exactly what you're talking about, isn't it? This kind of just put it out there, and try and build connections.
Completely. No, nobody goes to work to do a bad job. And we don't help people, but we don't help people do a good job too often. And because of exactly like you said before, policies, scripts, and stuff like that. But if we just remove all of those boundaries, then it just allows conversations like this. And like Chris said, when he lay there, make good friends, because you never know when you're going to need them. If you make the most of every single conversation, interaction, you never know where they're going to lead either. So yes, whilst this is being recorded, right, I would love to collaborate on something.
I don't know what it is.
No, and we don't need to know what it is yet, but but it's out there now, isn't it? Do you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be amazing as well. I would love to do that. But and I think if more people just remove all of those shackles that constrain themselves from who they are. Like, in fact, actually, just to jump back 10 minutes, you said about 10 minutes ago, the call handlers, the agents, when they are not themselves and they're constrained to scripts, that their days are really long and stuff, and they feel that way. That's exactly how Chris felt when he was trying to be somebody he thought his ex-partner wanted him to be. It didn't make him happy, and it didn't make her happy. That's a personal example, but it's also a work-related example that you've shone on that. And I think if we just could have amazing conversations like this, recognise that nobody goes to work to do a bad job, and we just freed everybody from everything, it would be bloody amazing.
Yeah. It'd be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Yes, yeah, of course it would. But there's a lot of politics involved in different organisations, and the competing metrics and measures and dog eat dog and all of that stuff. And so yeah, there's a lot of constraining things, but I think we can remove some boundaries straight away.
You must see it as well. I think organisations reflect society, or the other way around. In that, I've gone into places and there's the kind of them and us. So this team stops me doing this. They're this way. We're this way. We're cool. They're not. Same in society. But then the moment you can create the opportunity for people to work together, talk together, share experiences, share moments, all of a sudden, oh, I can't believe I thought this team was a nightmare, or this team stopped me doing my job effectively. They're actually pretty decent because so and so likes this, and we had a good chat about this. It's breaking down those sorts of barriers, both at work and in society. Because, you know, to go back to your experience and that message, how powerful is that? Why would you want to waste any time in things that aren't helping you or the people you love or others around you? It's a very, very powerful message.
No, yeah, completely. And Paul, I think it was Paul McGee, you know, the sumo guy, Shut Up and Move On guy, business book 15 years ago, and he's on social media now. But I think when I spoke to him, he's just written a book for teenagers, and in that book he has a beach ball theory. And so if I had a beach ball here in my hands, and I would be able to see a white stripe, an orange stripe, and a yellow stripe, and you'd be able to see a green stripe, a blue stripe, and a pink stripe. But ultimately, it's one beach ball. But too often, we're just looking at our own individual stripes and not conscious that other people can see other things of the same situation. And I think we need to appreciate that it's a full beach ball, and until we see the other side, we can't make better friends and connections and relationships and stuff because we can't see what they can see. And on one of the courses that I mentioned earlier on, I asked people, who was the last friend you made, and how did you make them? And every single instance, it's either at a club, or it's at the school where they drop the kids off, or it's because we've got that there's a connection, and we've got to find, if we are going to build stronger relationships and stuff, what that connection is with the other people. But until we talk to them, you never know. And until you can see what they can see, you never know. It sounds straightforward, but for some reason, it's not.
I was saying, that question, who was the last friend you made, is reminding me of, so I've lived in this town now just over a year, and I came here for love, but I didn't know anyone, and I've always played football, so I've started looking around trying to find teams, and they were oversubscribed, and there's a less than a kilometre away from where I am now, great facilities, and I just went up there one day, found someone to talk to, and said, how do I go about setting up something on a Sunday, hire the pitch, and I'm just going to go and start asking anyone roughly my age that I interact with during the week. So dropping the girls off at their clubs. I literally just started going around the car park, Bev's friends, asking their friends' husbands, and it just grew. And now, we're looking forward to playing this Sunday for the first time since lockdown. The WhatsApp group's buzzing. The crazy thing is that when we've had new players come in, they all think I've known the other people for years, and it's like the only reason I'm sharing that is just to this again. It's this mentality of like yes or just do it. Is I wanted to do something, I couldn't join something that was set up, so I just did it. I just did it myself. I didn't know how to do it. It's not been perfect, but it's that kind of the same sort of thing. Act now, do it now.
Yeah, no, completely, and it's having that common purpose. The thing that you've all got that common purpose or interest, and you've been able to do that. To make good friends. And I love that. I love that. But it's like before we hit record on this today, I think either you or I forget which one of us said it, that it feels like we know each other before we've known each other. And
Yeah,
and I think there's so many different avenues and things to do. It's just about if you take an interest in other people, and there's a scale, isn't there? The self-orientation scale from selfish to selfless. And if you do more things for other people and you actually show an interest and all of that stuff, then it's a far happier place. Far happier place.
it is. Well, you've made me very happy in this hour. We're coming to the end of it, unfortunately. This one, let's as soon as I hit stop record, get a date set for the next one, and whatever
Perfect.
that collaboration is going to look like. But Lee, from Get Knowledge, you've made a real impact on me today. Thanks very much for sharing that your experience. It's inspired me. It's made me think, and hopefully it's done that to everyone that listens. But you're a great guy, and thanks very much for sharing your experience. And I'm sure Chris is thinking you're doing a great job sharing his 3 messages.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure he's saying I'm doing a good job. I think he would say, "Stop bloody talking about me." Yeah, but honestly, but thank you so much for the opportunity to chat with you, Martin. I've thoroughly enjoyed this last hour, and yeah, I look forward to our collaboration soon.
Yeah, thanks very much, mate. Take care.
Cheers, bye bye.
Hi, everybody. Thanks very much for listening to episode 57. Still got some great episodes coming up. The diary gets full quickly, but if you would like to come on, please just let me know. Equally, just give us a call if there's anything you want to hear on here, or send me a message. Um, Always pleased to get your input. Anyway, hope you're all well. Thanks for listening, and see you soon.